Let's make some Bernie Mittens! Whether you do sewn cuffs, or embroidered cuffs, or knit cuffs, there's a ton of different ways to make sweater mittens, just like Bernie's. So you've got that sweater that you love and that the moths have found. Don't throw it out, let's make some Bernie Mittens out of it. The way I felt a sweater is to wash it exactly how you shouldn't, which is to say, lots of heat, lots of agitation, and a good dollop of detergent. Now once your sweater is felted, which means it's shrunk, it's dense, and the fibers have all tangled together, it's time to take it apart. So there are tons of different patterns that you can find online for free, for paid. The one I like the best though is from Pearl Soho, and I'll add a link to that pattern in the video description below. When your sweater's all cut up and the pieces are laying out, this is when I like to lay out my pattern pieces to try and optimize how many pairs of mittens I can get out of one sweater. When you're laying out the pattern pieces, this is when you can choose to use the cuff and the hem of the sweater to act as the ribbing on the mitt. You don't need to have an expensive sewing machine to make these kind of mittens. Even sewing by hand does a great job. If you want to know more about how these Bernie Mittens became so popular, I've attached a link in the video description below of the original creator, Jan Ellis. She's using the power of recycling to raise awareness, raise funds, and just make the world a better place. So check her out. One of the biggest things that I've learned while making these mittens for Christmases and birthday presents and just for keeping warm is actually to make sure that the inside of the mitten is as clean as possible. If you have lumps and bumps, you will feel them, so make sure that your stitches are straight, you're trimming any excess fabric, and you're keeping it nice and tidy. I like to make the liners for my mittens out of old cotton t-shirts. It's a durable liner, you can put it through the washing machine over and over and over again, and it holds up really well. I like to use all types of sweaters when I make my mittens, whether they have ribbing, cables, or just different colors. Makes them lots of fun. Now my favorite way to finish these mittens is by adding a knitted cuff. It's a little complicated to cast on, but here you can see I'm using a crochet hook to cast on my first stitches. I'm using a darning needle to puncture the fabric, the liner, and the outside felted fabric, and then using the crochet hook to draw the yarn through and cast on my first stitch. This fancy little paper clip that you see is just a stitches holder, and you can get those from Amazon or eBay. The important thing at this stage is to count your stitches. I like to do a knit 2 purl 2 to have a nice rib, so I try and make sure all my counting is in 2s. The yarns that I'm using on this mitt are just a wool and acrylic blend, so I'm using 2 strands to make it extra thick. It also knits up a little faster when you use a chunky yarn. The knitting needles that I'm using here are DPNs, aka double pointed needles. You can also use circulars, but I find that with a tight cuff, it's just easier to use the DPNs so that you can maneuver the curves. If you don't know how to knit, don't despair. You don't need to learn. You can also sew the cuffs. The red arrows here are pointing out where I've put little stitches holding the liner to the exterior fabric while everything is inside out. This helps everything stay secure and doesn't let it bunch up. Making these recycled mittens is a great way to reuse material that might otherwise go in the trash. They look cute, they're super warm, and they're really handy when you have cold weather. Get it? Handy? Thanks for watching, and I hope you have lots of fun making your own recycled Bernie Mittens.